Welcome to Vintage SF. I'm Richard Rempel, and today I want to talk about doubles. Not double doubles. In Canada, we would think of Tim Hortons, 2 sugar, 2 cream, or in the United States, you might think of basketball, 2 stats that are in double figures. But doubles in publishing, what are they? Here's a definition. Back-to-back, dos-a-dos, and tête-bêche all describe a book design where 2 different stories share a single physical volume, bound back-to-back with one story turned upside down. Some examples are ace doubles and Tor doubles. So I want to show you a couple examples from the ace doubles. Those were published in the 1950s, 60s, and early 70s. So here's one of the earlier ones. There's a story on the front and a story on the back. Later on in the 70s, they published it in a little bit larger format. It's still an A-size format. And so you have 2 books here. Tor doubles were published from 1988 to 1991. There's 36 of them. Well, maybe 37, or is it 38? I'll get to that later in my video. But Tor doubles were published in that back-to-back format, at least at the beginning. So you'd have one story on this side. This is from a Tor double number 17, and then you would have a second story. These were novellas or short novels. The second story on the back always had that barcode, so I always think of this one as the front of the book. Now, that didn't continue through the entire series. For example, that was number 17. Number 18, it's not in that format. There are 2 short stories in here, Robert Silverberg and C.L. Moore. But what we had here sometimes is a sequel to an older story or 2 stories just published in the regular format. That didn't continue consistently, though. Number 21 is back to this back-to-back format, or dos-a-dos, or tête-bêche. But then, number 22, we have, once again, just one side here. And Karen Haber printed a new prequel to the classic The Jewel of Boz. And that one is by Lee Brackett from way back when, I think the 1950s. So let's talk a little bit more about this. Let's get a comprehensive list of these books and some of the resources you can go to. The first one that I want to talk about is called Black Gate, Adventures in Fantasy Literature. This is an online style magazine, and I'm going to be talking about articles written by Stephen H. Silver. He's a 20-time Hugo Award nominee and was the publisher of the Hugo-nominated fanzine Argentis, as well as the editor and publisher of, I think this is IS Fic Press, for 8 years. He also edited books for DAW, Nesfa Press, and ZNB. Stephen Silver gives us a history of the Tor doubles, including one which may have been a test case or proof of the format before we actually got to number 1 in the series. And even better yet, he took a look at each Tor double and had a review for them on this online magazine. Of course, these resources will all be linked in the description below, so you can go to them. But let me take you through just a visual of all the books that Stephen Silver reviewed. It gives you the cover images as well. Remember, some of them will have 2 images and some will be just 1. And we're going to start with what might be thought of as 0, or it was a test case or a proof of whether this format would work for Tor. In 1981, Tor published Keith Laumer's novel, The House in November, with a special bonus complete short novel on the end. When the book was reprinted in 1985, the 2 stories were printed in a back-to-back format with the words Tor double appearing on both sides. This was not the first Tor double numbered, so you might consider this 0. That means now that we're up to 37 books, which are Tor doubles. Let's just scroll through here and then you can see each story, each book, and you'll notice how many of them are Hugo or Nebula Award winners, or perhaps even both. We're now up to the final volume in the series, a collection of Fritz Leiber novels, Conjure, Wife, and Our Lady of Darkness. It was published in August of 1991. But there still was one more volume that was scheduled to see print, although it was never published. On a side note, there were also Tor Doubles in Westerns, Western Doubles. I can't recall seeing these, but Stephen Silver talks about them too in a post. I highly recommend these articles by Stephen Silver. If you're really interested in Tor Doubles, you can find out a lot about them here. Another resource that is great, especially for those of us who like lists, is isfdb.org, the Internet Speculative Fiction Database. Here is their page for Tor Doubles. You'll note that they have the one that is printed before number 1 listed here. There's no number in the box for it, but it was printed in 1985, and then we see in 1988, number 1 was actually printed. There's a lot of information here, including whether it was back-to-back or just paperback style in print. It also has whether it's an omnibus or an anthology, meaning an omnibus would be 2 stories by the same author, and an anthology would be 2 stories by different authors. You can also see the cover artists for the book. In the case of the back-to-back ones, you'll see 2 cover artists. And in the case of the one with the single front cover, you'll only see 1 artist. We can also go to see the cover images here in ISFDB. They start at number 1. And at the end of the list, you'll see number 36 printed twice. There was a second printing of it. And also you can see what we could consider 0, or the proof of concept one that came from 1985, the one by Keith Laumer. I like this list. It's fairly comprehensive with a lot of information in it, but you can also find perhaps an easier list to look at in Wikipedia. The Tor Double page in Wikipedia has numbers 1 through 36, and it has the information about the stories and authors, the date of publication, and the ISBN number. Back in the late 1980s, I did purchase some of these and really enjoyed these short novellas, or short novels. Now, I'm trying to collect them all. At the moment, I'm missing number 0 by Keith Laumer, number 9, Asimov and Sturgeon, and number 36, the 2 stories by Leiber. As I was editing this video, I happened to see that my friend Ira of SF Words of Wonder had just published a collector's corner on all 36 of the Tor Doubles, including the +1, what we would call 0 in the line. I'll have a link in the description below. You can see every book here because he has every one. Now I'm turning it over to you. Is there anything that you can tell us about the Tor Doubles that I haven't covered so far? Was there an editor for the series? Which stories did you find fascinating in here? Until next time, keep reading.